Distinguished participants who are watching online and also who are kindly present in the broadcast room at AIT, very good afternoon to all of you. How are you today? I hope we are doing well because today is Friday and somehow it's Friday the 13th. And I'm pleased to extend our warmest welcome to all of you to the regional dialogue to promote sustainable lifestyles to food and agriculture sector. My name is Tani, a program officer to UNEP or United Nations Environment Program. I'm implementing the Switch Asia project, which is kindly supported by the European Union. And UNEP is implementing one of the three components under the Switch Asia, which is called Regional Policy Advocacy Components, which aim at promoting the uptake of SCP or sustainable consumption and production, and mainstreaming SCP into policy and turn it into action. This regional dialogue is one of our three in the series that we hope we can convince our audience and trigger some changes in actions, enhance better decisions for all of us to become more responsible consumers and responsible producers. In this particular dialogue, you will be inspired by our speakers who have extensive knowledge and experience in this field, and you will understand better how you can enhance your sustainability in your daily life, in your action from the perspective of food and agriculture. And I repeat, as a consumer as well as a producer. And I also would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to all the experts who agree to join for that time and willingness to contribute their knowledge and experience today. Last but not least, it's our privilege to have Asian Institute of Technology, or AIT, to be our technical partner to organize this dialogue. And I would like to introduce Professor Anil Kumar Ano, who kindly agrees to moderate the whole session, and he also will become our keynote speaker. Briefly, Professor Anil Kumar is a professor and head of the Department of Food, Agriculture and Bioresources at AIT. His background expertise is in the food and nutrition security, food safety, food and bioprocessing and preservation and bioeconomy. Professor Anil has long experience in writing journals, authoring chapters and books, and he has been invited to be keynote speaker to many regional and international conferences. He also has a strong experience in conducting innovative researches, which are very well recognized in the food and agriculture field. Without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Professor Anil, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Tuni, for your opening and a nice introduction. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, all the friends around here on digitally present. Thank you very much for your time taking with us, staying with us. And we hope in coming 2 hours, we will have some good interactions and good sharing of the from our experts on the basis. So I hope you will be staying with us for completely 2 hours in this webinar session. As introduced by Ms. Tuni, we have today specifically focusing on this launching a series of policy dialogue, sustainable lifestyle in Asia, on the innovations and connectivity through farm to fork for sustainable lifestyle and healthier society, which is one of the most important coming aspects for, especially for our region, not only our region, throughout. You can see the global, especially the pandemic, has brought a lot of attentions, a lot of things to us to think. And this is one of the steps we are making from here. For that, I would like also to thank for giving us opportunity to Switch Asia to work with UNEP and other our experts today, and the panel experts. I will introduce you later as well. They are with us here, and above all, our the organizing team here. Also, I would like to thank them, and then all the participants who are on the screen or going to join on after now will be very welcome to you all and be with us. We'd be happy to have your questions, and through the chat box, our reporter will be taking all those questions, and so we'll have the discussions later part of the panel discussions. So briefly, what I can give introduction that we have a video presentation. The colleague from France working in UNEP who will be presenting her video will be giving 10 minutes, followed by my own keynote speech around 20-25 minutes. And then we have the panel discussions. We have 3 experts who will be talking on nutrition security and enhancement of nutrition, then the sustainable consumption productions, and then we have the case study on the sustainability production of the rice as a platform. We have the 3 very experienced experts. We also today we will have one launching of the book, which is called Green Noses, and we have the colleagues from the 2 of the colleagues who will be introducing that one as well. Then we leave for half an hour for the open discussions. So I see the many of colleagues who I know as well, who are experts here in the Zoom already now, and very pleased to see you very senior professors as well with us, and very senior experts. Would be happy to have your questions through the chat box, any from the young generation to the senior experts. We are very much likely to have. That will give us a lot of interactions to understand and introduce ourselves as well, what we are and where we need to go, and how the policy developers can help us, the science and the industries or the needed things there. And then, so that will be the overall our today's pictures in coming 2 hours. And again, welcome you all. With this, I would like to bring to the next session where we have the presentation by Ms. Garrett Clark, who is the Sustainable Lifestyle Program Officer in UNEP in Paris. She is based in Paris. She has more than 30 years of career in sustainability working. And then she will be having, especially working on the sustainable consumption and productions. As she cannot present here and she is not able to join the Zoom as well, she has sent us recorded video. And I'm pleased to share her video, and I hope you will enjoy there, and would be happy to have any questions, please, from her video, please send in the chat box. The chat box is open and our reporter will be looking for. With that, please, again, thank you very much, everybody who are already on the Zoom and coming people more as well. Okay, starting videos.
Good morning from the United Nations Environment Program in Paris. My name is Garrett Clark, and I'm the Sustainable Lifestyles and Education Program Officer in the Economy Division. And it's a real pleasure to be here with you this morning. Allow me to thank and welcome all of you. Professor Kumar from the Asia Institute of Technology and other distinguished guests, AIT students and faculty, as well as young professionals in Asia. Allow me also to thank the Asia Institute of Technology for their support for today's event, as well as that of the European Commission. Now, my colleague, Dr. Memon, has asked me to offer a few introductory remarks about SDG 12, which we know is responsible consumption and production, sustainable lifestyles, and more in particular in the area of food. Well, that's a challenging task in some opening remarks. So I'd like to translate that task into a few words around what's sustainable living in a 1.5 context, and how can we empower people to live better and lighter. And within that, I'll go into a bit more detail on some of the work UNEP is doing to translate the evidence and science into actions that people can take about how they're living to be more impactful. And of course, food is a huge area within how we live. So within this COVID context, let me offer a few opening comments about that. We've all seen the references to the importance of putting people first, about people-centric approaches to how we build back better. And whether that's at the global, the regional, the national, the local levels. But actually, we've all seen this even within our homes. Google noted within confinement periods, when most of the planet was affected, that there was an increase in the search around the string of words for sustainable living of over 4,500%. Now imagine, that was just those words. If you expanded the words that would include how we live, which includes how we eat, how we move, how we study, what we do to live our aspirations and be part of our community, our well-being, you can imagine the interest that this COVID context has brought about to that we're more people-centric. Now, the thing to think about is also that most people, when they wake up in the morning, don't think about the environment or sustainability. They don't think about hurting it, but not to help it either. In fact, even though there may be more people and a growing awareness around sustainability, and probably most people who are attending today's event are more engaged in this topic, the reality is that most people, when they wake up, they think more about how to meet their daily needs, their daily concerns. They think about what they need to eat, what they need to wear, getting dressed, getting their kids to school, getting to work. They make decisions about how they live and about health more now than ever. Now, they're living their lives and their aspirations as best they can for themselves as well as their families. And today, those challenges are even greater than ever. So in the remaining moments that I have, I'd like to share with you a few slides that highlight more what are sustainable lifestyles, what can be done about it, and in particular, some in the area of food. So allow me the technology of putting up my slides. All right. So when we think about what are sustainable lifestyles, here we have the overall experts' decision and definition on what are lifestyles. But again, referring to the way that I spoke earlier, we're talking about ways of living, our behaviors, the choices that we can make that will minimize our impacts. Now, sustainable living is new on the global agenda. It's appeared twice in the Sustainable Development Goals, but previous to that, there hadn't been a global mandate to take action, but now we have that action. So in looking at what the experts say, what are sustainable lifestyles, let's be clear that the evidence is clear that there is no one sustainable lifestyle, that the way one lives sustainably in Paris or Bangkok or Nairobi, and whether it's in an urban or rural setting, will all vary. And even those who want to live more sustainably probably do not have the options that are affordable, accessible, effective, and probably most importantly, desirable. The evidence is growing, however, on what we can do in our daily lives to scale up positive impacts to live healthier, better, and lighter, and that's for everyone. But again, there is a critical role for governments and business to make sustainable living the default option. Now, highlighting here, what's also important to note is that with 2 to 3 billion new consumers coming online, and many will be urban youth who are setting today's consumption patterns and will be tomorrow's leaders, many of them get their information from social media. So we have to be clear in keeping that in mind as we come up with the evidence and figure out how best to effectively disseminate it. Now, shortly put, what is it that we know about food? Everyone can relate to it. We love it. It's part of our lives. It's how we survive, and it's also how we celebrate living. And this slide sums up some of the major issues. The dream that we have about what is food and what we want out of it is also alongside what the reality of it is. Aspirations, trends, and dietary changes and impacts all along global value chains, waste, carbon impacts, and people's needs that are not being met in order to survive, and raising obesity and health impacts are all part of the picture. In a world that's stretched thin for resources in a COVID context, these challenges are magnifying. Now, as those who work in the sustainability sphere, which many of us are, we're probably familiar with looking at a life cycle approach to where are the impacts along the value chain for food. If you look at the bottom of this slide, it highlights the different points at which many of us may have had exposure or engagement on how impacts around food could could be addressed. However, look at how the individual, or within the use phase, how people think about food. They aren't able to affect all of the parts along the value chain, and when they think about how they're going to actually use it, their concerns are about what it looks like, how it tastes, what its cost is it fresh, is it something they're desiring, and their use will affect how it's purchased, how it's stored, preparation, and consumption. So it's that intersection that's important in looking at sustainable lifestyles. Now, in order to help take some of the challenges and evidence that has been noted around food systems, UNEP has worked with experts across the globe to look at translating the evidence into what people can do about it. And here highlighted and known as the anatomy of action, the 5 major areas in which people make their decisions, their daily decisions, and spend their resources, financial and otherwise, are around food, stuff, move, money, and fun. And in looking at how this was developed, just to give you the broader context for the entire effort, you can see here that within that, the major elements for dealing with food and its impacts are in 3 clear areas around protein swaps, using all of your food, and growing your own. So in drilling down more into what is important around the food aspects, you can see here parts of the social media toolkit, the anatomy of action is, which highlights the social media assets, which are ways in which you can visualize and get attractive narrative components to promoting these 3 key areas: protein swaps, using all your food or reducing food waste, and growing your own. And what's important to note is that with each of the areas highlighted of what we need to do are suggestions, options, real efforts that can be made and undertaken. Now, how has COVID changed the context we have around food? We've seen some initial reactions that food efforts are shifting to more home cooking, that people are buying more and are ready to buy larger purchases, but looking at better quality, and that there's a strong concern for healthy diets. And there's a notice around that exotic purchases could be increased risks, and hence there's more local purchasing. However, it's more hygienically cared for and packaged because of health concerns. Now, what can be done at a systems level around food at a local level implementation? Here are some of the areas that are practical, innovative, creative ways in which communities and initiatives can look at reducing their protein swaps or increasing protein swaps, using all the food that's there and growing their own. Now, just as a final slide to give you a sense of some of the additional work that UNEP has done in this area, UNEP has translated the work of sustainable lifestyles in research as well as actions. And in addition to the anatomy of action, we've also looked at the Good Life Goals, which is a translation of the SDGs in general. Now, before leaving, I just wanted to say these are only some introductory remarks around food and food systems. It's important to reference that the evidence and critical ways in which we can reduce our impacts on the planet, whether it's climate, biodiversity, and nature, as well as other impacts, are critical to take into account to how we prioritize the actions that we've had. And with these brief opening remarks, I'd like to thank you all again for having an opportunity to speak with you this morning, and look forward and offer you a great success for today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Garrett. You're not listening to our clap, but hopefully will be conveyed. And thank you very much for this remarkable the ideas, how this is sustainable and how it is affecting to the society and how it is needed to be. So we'll be discussing further as well for this point. And okay, as our program, the next one is I I give the brief or the scenarios, what is needed in the food systems, talking about in coming 15 to 20 minutes around giving the issues, challenges, and try to where we need to move in whole food systems. That's the farm to fork. And that's the topic was chosen here. And I will be giving brief on this one, innovations and connectivity through farm to fork for sustainable lifestyles and healthier society. And I have been introduced, like myself as Professor Anil from AIT, working on this since last around 2 decades now on these food systems, and aiming much more work in collaborative way to work throughout the globe. And that's the purpose of organizing such type of activities. Okay, sorry for technical. Okay, with talking with the issues first, what are the issues we have current and the broad issues through these pandemic situations? We know that there's a huge demand of food due to increased populations. Not only that, even we have the food, we don't know what we are eating now. I mean, nutritionally we are enhanced or not, whether we are eating that is good amount of nutrition is there or not. So that is still, and then the production systems itself is looking our societies on environmentally the capable or building the globally is sort of things that we are matching or not. If you see that about the food and nutrition security there, what we are talking, the populations will be increasing, the same time nutritionally will enhance or not. So there was a Millennium Development Goals, which makes some sort of steps were taken, but that was reduced from 25% to almost half of that in 2014, but then it's still there. So now we know that also the Garrett speak about the Sustainable Development Goals, what we have, and that is the 2030 agenda. And it has been, some of them is like food nutrition security, enhanced health, talking about sustainable consumption and productions, all those things. But how we can make it? That's the bigger challenge and questions for our generations and the future generations are facing and need to tackle. But for this, there is needed to have the innovative ideas. But not only the production side, not only enhancing the nutrition, the bigger challenge is coming how to reduce the losses happening throughout the food supply chain. And this food supply chain, when I talk, I'm not only coming up to the retailers, but at the consumer level. So if you see that there are almost, it has been that 1/3, 35% of the food what we are generating, same, we are losing out of that 35%. And it is not at the level of farm in between there to the industry, that's the cause of post-harvest loss. But it also coming at the retailer level, at the industry level as well. And then at the consumer level, obviously in Asia, we have less on the consumer levels, but we have the post-harvest loss. In some of the commodities, we are losing almost 45%, 50%. But if you talk in the very developed, like the US, the majority of the food loss is not a loss, but is a waste because the table waste is wet. If we accumulate those, we can solve a bigger problem of the food security there. So that's need to be thought. Among also that, this loss is bringing a huge amount of greenhouse gas emissions problems and generating. So that loss can be also, if you reduce somehow, then can make environmental issues to be solved as well. So there is a need of the ideas and the challenges. These things are already there, and we face now COVID-19, which is bringing much more challenges as well, starting again from the farm up to the consumer levels. And so I'll be giving a little bit brief on that, where that's my thought actually, but obviously would be happy to listening from and getting ideas from the other experts here as well. And then we will be getting from the audiences, sending us some of the details now and in the future, because our connections will be getting from here now. After COVID-19, what we see there, especially, the lockdowns, and there is a transportation, there is a completely locked between the countries, within the countries, within the cities, in between the cities, and that makes a lot of havoc situations, like we have lack of distribution. There is a problem with the handling and the storage of the materials, including the raw materials, raw ingredients, quality ingredients. We don't have to go to the food production systems. So you don't have the food processing, or you don't have the food products enough to supply as well. Along with that, there is a proper logistic problems that can be not supplied through there to the consumers are getting. Overall, that, like earlier, also the made from the earlier speaker as well, what we are getting the food, that food might not have enough quality, or they are not coming as, they're not giving the, and people were thinking whatever they are as a bulk buying there without looking, because you want to save there in home and no need to go out. That was the fear, and that fear has been still there. Now you see that still the COVID is creating us problems. So that's the problem. Just one example here. It is few months back has been taken. You can see that how this has been affected. One of the picture of the left side up, you can see that is from the Nepal. The many of the farmers, when they grow there, it was difficult to supply. Even we have less, whatever the to consumers are, demand is more, but supply is less. But then still the farmers have to throw all the vegetables, many more, like all those type of commodities, they cannot supply to the market, and they have to supply. So that's a wastage. But not in Nepal and our countries. If you think about USA, you see that million pounds of onions were dumped in USA, that one, because it could not supply to the consumers level, or retailers supplies were a problem. Similarly, another slide is showing that mulches green beans at certain farm was just by tractor, it become like a fertilizer rather than coming to the food in consumptions. So these are the bigger problems came, and this is just few examples I take here, but much more examples are, if you go through the new, you can see there. That's the one of the supply side, but other supply is coming the fear. If you see that early notice in January or December when it started, everybody was like looking that this COVID came from the food, which was later was not rejected. That's not coming from, it's coming from human to human. But that was the big fear for the people, and people were not accepting to buy the food like that way, maybe coming as a, we are getting, but we know now, enough evidence is there that it is coming through the respiratory systems, and it is coming human to human contact more through the air droplet, or if you are more close contacts. There has not been still any evidence saying that is coming the food, but still the supply chain has been affected, the production has been affected. There is still there is a fear that the package systems can have been bringing, so the science is still lacking there to give the enough evidence, and that is affecting on the food supply, as well as there is a cautious need to be done for the safety aspects. Now with this, I have just taken one example here in the safety aspect if you are talking, but and more need to thought, antimicrobial resistance, which is coming through the food supply chain very usually, and that has been already challenged coming there. But now this COVID-19 is getting more exaggerating actually that one. Like if you see there is a chance already, this is an old report actually saying that by 2050 by AMR could make 10 million deaths, and you have 66 trillion of the costing. And if you can see that circle I made, that is giving of the Southeast Asia, and Asia is one of the prone where. And why I'm focusing here, because this is the one of the threat coming through the food supply chain. Because so much use, not only as a human we are consuming the antibiotics, and now you can see that as soon as the people are getting flu type of symptoms, we start taking antibiotics. And we know that once you take more antibiotics, the bacteria having us, which are getting resistance, they can mutate very fast, they can change there, and none of the bacteria. So the generations of the bacteria is not working as well there. Other side is there, we are getting a lot more from the agriculture production sites. In agriculture, in aquaculture, in livestock, huge applications used, and it has been contaminating not only the productions, and the residuals are coming and getting the human consumed, but it also contaminating the water, contaminating the soil, contaminating the plants, and it is affecting on the plants, affecting the animals, the livestock, the poultry birds, or the fishes, and which will be major threat. So this is going to be one of the major challenge and threat now, and future is increasing much more. So these are the issues which is coming along with us. Now, along with us also there is the major threat, like we saw that the food what we are consuming or getting there, is that enough for us? We are eating for 3 times, 4 times a day, that's depending on the eating habit. But are we getting enough nutrients which is giving our immune? Why these infections are so large? Even it is the poor countries, least developed countries, developing countries, or even the developed countries. If our immune systems are, we know now, I mean, all these people where the people are with me here must be knowing that if you have the strong immune systems, then you are somehow getting to resist with this type of bacteria or viruses, which can save us more. Now, where it is coming from, obviously there is a lacking, there is a deficit of that, right? And then COVID also, again, exaggerating that one and affecting on that. There are some examples you see that the people have been not only hunger, but they're looking for the good food. In some examples given in Nairobi, also giving in Dhaka, Bangladesh, but many more countries that's happened, and that's still happening there. That was the one, the lacking of the food itself, not available for the people to eat. But the other side is the quarantine side. Still many, we are also as isolated and quarantined. In quarantine, what we did is, in a stress condition, people sometimes either, if don't get sleep, they eat more. That's the very habitual, and there is a psychology, proven psychology, science is there already. So what you eat, obviously you don't like to cook, but what you like to get the food, which is processed foods. And that processed food, what make that, there are a lot of, that we have to be making more better. So rather than getting healthier foods, the processed foods, and that is what caused that. You see the picture is showing that is caused much more unhealthier. You make more obesity problems, and that makes other diseases to inviting the other diseases, which is called the lifestyle diseases, and which is very likely the increase of the numbers. If you see the scientific evidences are coming from the hospitals, the reports, we are getting much more there as well. Obviously, when there is a people are in the quarantine or getting isolated, staying in room alone, including the kids or the aging people or even the adults or mid-aged people, everybody has some sort of problems they're looking for, and that stress reduces the immune systems as well. When immune systems are reduced, if you don't have enough good or balanced food, what will happen? It invites much more diseases, much more infections. So what is happening now? COVID-19 is giving flu-like symptoms, but due to lack of awareness, due to lack of enough food, we are getting the secondary infections, and that I was emphasizing on antimicrobial resistance. Now, secondary infections are causing more complications, like many people are getting death due to pneumonia, right, rather than getting direct COVID-19 effect. So there are a lot of consequences. The people are having diabetes, they don't get the proper food, they are aiming whatever they're coming, and then they get more sugar rise and getting the death. So those are provoking actually this COVID-19, where we need to change our behavior, we need to change the style, our eating style, consumption style, all those things there. So these are some issues. There are a lot more issues which are surrounding us. COVID has exaggerated all those things as well, but now we have the time. This is the time for, especially for the young generations, the generations of science. Now we are working. The industries have to change the thoughts, and similarly, the policy developers have to bring some attentions. Very surely need to be attention to bring. And there are two things what I think, like sustainable food systems, that our colleagues incoming in panel discussion will give more details on that one. And there is a need of innovations. We have been doing research and development. Are that enough? We need a more innovative ideas which can generate and which can make us more healthier towards food generations, which can make more healthier. Like you see that here in one of the left side slide, nutrition and health, we are talking 795 million people are still hungered and malnourished. At the same other side, 2 billion people are obesity or having the overweight. Now, where is the imbalance there? Is coming the food consumption behavior, eating behavior, the production of the foods, or the lifestyle that has to be. Now it is becoming genetic as well, obviously, or there are other factors are there, but we are talking more here. The second is, that we have a big problem with the climate changing, climate issues, the sustainability issues, where we are talking about how we can reduce the greenhouse gases. So there is a need of changing of the production from the farm level up to the retailers or the consumer level thought as well, towards the sustainability, resources, how to efficiently more, and that's called the circularity or resource efficiency. So if you can recycle the things, or you can make efficiently, like we're talking, some example I can give, the waste which has a high value can be incorporated in the food applications. You can generate a better people, you can have better food for a healthier society as well. So overall, what my emphasize here and urging to the policy to be needed, we need to more think on the innovations, where we can give the community wise, which can be directly implicated there. And then the possible is that you can reduce many more the issues or problems now facing may be solved out. Obviously, it needs a global attention. Okay, few examples I'm taking here, which give you that in the food systems from the production sides up to the consumer levels, how it is reaching there. And if you see that, I talk just a couple of slides will give for the production side, what can be possible and what the world is moving, globally moving, and we should think as well how we can utilize the waste streams, which has a high value there as well, how we can make the food processing, which is more functional and which is more personalized for the individuals, where the people can eat only what they need, at what time they need, how much they have the absorption or digestibility systems. Also in the packaging systems, we talk a lot that reduce the plastics, but how we can survive without the plastic, that is another challenge, is we have the other solutions there, and also in the supply chain. So from the food productions up to the consumer, there is a need to changing of the behaviors as well, and bringing two things I talk at the farming level, just giving example for the security sides, food security. If you go for the, we are digital world now, and if you make the utilization of the digital world, especially on the precise farming systems, it may help. And also there is a way coming that how you can get more nutritionally enhanced food with the alternative food sources. That's the globally we need to think. If we think of smart farming systems, okay, now as I mentioned, it is the digital world. Let you utilize the digital world. You can have the smart farming system from the seed productions up to the production harvesting time. You can have, and you can precisely look for there where you need, how you can efficiently utilize the water, how you can efficiently utilize the seeds, how you can efficiently utilize the manpower as well, how you can sense or how you can make the sensing systems that can make the production better, and you can analyze. Then you are not using too much pesticides, you are not going to use too much fertilizers, you are not using too much chemicals, antibiotics, what we have been thinking. So there is a need to think, and there is a need to have the policy, which policy can bound the farmers or the growers to think twice how you can utilize that one. Other than that, now we are talking more alternative food resources, and that's a lot of, that a lot of food scientists especially have been working, or the agriculture scientists also thinking. And why they are thinking like that one is one of the major. If you see that as much as we are cropping land using to grow the food, similar we have to use the pasture land either to graze the animals or to grow the nutrient feed for the animals as well, which is a lot more costing and a lot more, so your land has been utilized. And also in the greenhouse gas emission, you can see that how much we need to have the beef or dairy, similarly for the pig productions. And then you can have also for the aquaculture, other type of animals production or poultry production as well. If you see in the right side, it's saying that GHG greenhouse gas emissions coming from feed crop production is generating almost 40%, while fertilizer is of the feed is giving 14% as well. And also cattle and the waste is giving 32%, which is a huge amount out of 100 we are talking. And general farm production 14%. So that gives a thought, and there is a way to move to look for that alternate food resources, which is not the solution, immediate solution, but can be the future of the foods, other than what we are producing in agriculture, livestock, or aquaculture. So I just try to give some ways that we need to move and we think about the future of the foods to reduce these greenhouse gases. But those foods are still the lake of and bringing to the industrialization. So there is a movement bringing, like you see that, we know that the fish eating, that aquaculture is one of the future now as well, where you have a very good quality of the proteins, good quality of fat, rather than getting the other animals as well, it can give the better. Now the insect meals is coming earlier, we have been using for the animal feed, but that is the future food for the human being as well. Utilization of microorganisms, that's another bioresources, which if I talk in Asia, in our culture, we have been eating since hundreds of years. It's not a new, but what we have not been successful still to industrialize it. So there's a need. Now, when I talk in microorganisms, if you know fermented foods, we have been eating a lot more in these countries, and the people here around me here obviously know that what are the fermented foods we have been eating and where we need to make more industrialized. There are still some which is at the lab level, but there is a future that can be coming. Even in Thailand, there are some of the insect like the cricket, the grasshopper farming, and those are coming in the future as well as alternate. And you know, these are the cold-blooded animals. That's called the, and they are very much good source of the proteins. Like, okay, so it has been used for the feed, animal feed or the livestock feed, but now is the future is coming, like what is the harm if it utilize, because the growth is much lower, it is not going to affect on the environmental, they will be more sustainable, and you are getting good quality of the proteins, good quality of amino acids, you are good quality of getting some minerals and vitamins from them as well, and the growth is much lower, which can give you, and there are some, I can tell you some of those already industrialized, and you can see the one product is there. In Thailand itself, the cricket is quite ahead coming now for as a substitute of the meal for bringing there as well. Just taking examples. Not to surprise, tomorrow you will be eating burger coming from the lab. Sorry, okay. Okay, tomorrow we'll be eating the burgers. Now we are getting from the cow directly, or getting from the pig, or getting from the poultry chicken burgers. But tomorrow is very soon, hopefully, will be coming that the biotech labs, like my lab as well, we will be making and the meat, and you will be eating burger from there. So no more growing the cows, no more growing the pigs as well, no more growing the chicken as well. And that is likely to be, and I can tell you some of the European the labs already in success to culture, getting from the stem cells from there, growing in the test tubes, not test tube, Petri plates, and from there you meet, and then tomorrow it can be commercialized using the reactors, bioreactors, and can be generated. And you can see that it will be much more environmental sustainable. And there is a future of such type of things are coming as well. Okay, so these are the things which is giving the alternative way. Other way is like making the personalized food, which is also coming, aiming now. What you need, your plate will be coming there. How much you need, you know that we have the gene, which has the enough DNA, which can be producing maximum amount of enzyme. But what we eat at least 3 or 4 times higher. That, like my research also, I did one of the company here in the livestock poultry birds. And we find that even the company is giving for the animals to feed, this is 3 times higher than what the requirement is there. So why to give that much that you can reduce as well? And that will generate not only money, but also save the environment that's there. So that will give you that is aiming towards to make a better food for the future, and that can give the more healthier society, that's all. Now, when we are talking the industry is growing a lot more already, and they are generating huge amount of waste, right? Either as a loss or the waste. Now, how can you utilize that one that has the high value? You know that one of our panel experts will give more details on that as well, but I just let you know that this has been utilization for, like, we know that biogas generations or the renewable energy to produce. But when I look for as a food scientist or as a biotech scientist, I look more different way that all this waste, what we are getting from the agro industries, they are no more waste. There is a zero waste that has the high value and which can generate a lot more resources either for food, for feed, as well as for the cosmetic or pharmaceutical industries. And that's the industries can utilize better way from the low or zero cost to the high value cost. That's our aim. And I think many of our colleagues here with me at this moment, hopefully they have been already working, they have been knowing already, and they are trying to make, the only problem is still coming is there that how to make this waste, to make aware to the consumer level that this is not the waste, this is the high value, which can utilize it, you can, and the industry, how industry can maximize the value from there. Give some example here, what we are doing. You see that the eggshell membrane, which has the cell is there, but the membrane is the fully protein, 95% protein, 5% is there, hyaluronic acid, which has high value for the medical purpose can be utilized. The feathers, you know that in the industrialized countries, how much poultry has been now slaughtered, how much chicken we are eating every day, and the poultry feathers that has been wasted for just dumping somewhere. Rather than dumping, it has high proteins. Why not utilize that protein as well? You know that the very good example in AIT, we had been a long time working from the shrimp waste, produce the chitosan. Actually, that was my PhD work as well. And we succeed to make that from the chitosan has application in food, feed, and even in the pharmaceutical. Now, you know that from the chitosan, one of the product has been developed, which can be good for the arthritis people and that even Thailand has commercialized that one as well. So many more, even in the, not only the animal byproducts, but also from the plant-based, they have the huge amount of waste that can be generated and making high value. So low value, like as a fertilizer for biogas generation, one way you can utilize the resources. But then if the valorization is there, what I saw in the last right side, you can see that a lot of they have the bioactive compounds, which can be more beneficial for the human applications in any form, either in the food or in the pharmaceuticals or in the biomedical applications. And that should be the aim of the future to generate. Okay, that's, I told that I will not go too detail on the technical component here, but that's our research as well. And globally, many of our colleagues have been working on this and showing that this type of value has, and there are a lot of now case studies, like I always give example to my students as well. From the hooves of the animals has been produced huge amount of keratin. And now you know the keratin in our nails as well, and which can give a lot. Now this is already in the cosmetics industries has been using that keratin coming from the animal waste, which was no value at all. Similarly, we have a lot more here. So there is a time to come and think more as well, that one. So those are just few examples. Now I come to the third point where how we can make food as a medicine. So you don't have to go much hospital, make a food as a, now this is called, in our terminology, we call designer foods, where you have, and I'm sure the Professor Sylvie will be giving more details on that a little bit during the panel discussions, how this nutrition can enhance our systems, health systems through the food as well, okay? So a few examples, just for my talk here, can bring in that. Now you have the food, what we are eating now. If you're adding the bioactive compound, now that is in the food itself, and you know that how much we cook and process, we kill everything. Now there is a need to think of cooking and generating the food as well. And that can be utilized, and that's called the functional food because you are getting more. Now I was talking about a lot of antioxidants, you know, that is having a lot of amino acids, a lot of trace minerals, a lot of vitamins, and the microorganisms, that's the bacteria, good bacteria. I'm talking bacteria means those are the good bacteria which can help to make the functional foods as well. Okay, a few examples, just like take that we need. I was very happy, one of the company here, and they have produced the sleeping milk. So I was also, as a food scientist, a bit surprised, what is the meaning of sleeping milk? And then the owner convinced me that when the people from my farm or my industry, if they drink at night, they'd get very good sleep. So they can, then what type of people, especially his target was the newly born, you know, the mothers, to give them so they can get better sleep. But then he was telling that it is more. And there is a compound called serotonin or melatonin especially, which makes us sleep. So the milk, if you have, and then what he is telling that he is not adding there anything, but it is getting from the cow itself. So there is a way that we know the science now that can enhance the production there, or you add there, which can make, now I was suggesting him and he already started thinking, rather than giving the milk, because you know the people moving from here to there, you have the jet lag systems and those people cannot sleep. You don't carry the milk all the time, you can milk tablet. So now he's producing the milk tablet from there, which can give the sleeping as a sleeping pills, but sleeping pills not coming as a synthetic pharmaceutical products, but it's coming from the food, from the dairy science. So there are a lot more things are there, which is available in food, which need to be explored, which need to be available for the society. And there's a need to grow that type of things in industry level, rather than making the conventional way of that thinking. Okay. Not only this gives as a designer foods, but it also has a lot of value for superfoods, which is not as a medical foods if the people get infected. Like if you think, many of us, we know about the bitter gourds, which is bitter, people who don't like to eat, but bitter gourd contains very high amount of compound, which is similar like insulin. And that has been already proven now. If you eat every day bitter gourds, or taking the juice of the bitter gourd, which is really, you feel like bitter to take, your diabetic patients, the number of diabetic patients will be reduced. Okay, they can be, which are the prone, even the genetically prone, the number will be decreasing. So such things are now needed to grow, which we have there. So think on that. Also, there are much more foods are there which can be more making the healthier and enhance the immune systems of our body. Okay, and one of them is traditional fermented foods. I would like to highlight here in the region Asia and even in Africa and other countries as well, nations, we have a lot more traditional fermented foods, which has been very much underutilized, which has not been commercialized. This is the time now to make, think about 100 years back, our ancestors, our grandfathers or before that, they have been consuming a lot more those things, and they were feeling much healthier than what we are facing now. And that can help the immune system. And that's the proven science is there. What only you need is that it's bring to the policy level, it brings to the industry level, and make the industry how to utilize that one. So there is a way to think more and bring to the industrialization of this process as well, which can help. And it has been told that if you have the fermented foods, your bioaccessibility, or you can increase the delivery systems by many products, because the delivery system has to work as well, enhancing the systems, you get enough food or nutritionally enhanced food for the healthier society. The other, what we talk in the sustainability, obviously the packaging systems, what I talked earlier, there's a big problem on the plastic and the packaging systems, very difficult to control. But can we think about utilizing those wastes or the materials which can be biodegradable more, right? And then you can, so there are few, is possible, we can start with the thinking of that, active packaging, making some plastics from the biological materials, incorporating antimicrobial agents, which is coming from the bacteria or other compounds as well, which can enhance the shelf life as well. And the right side, I show you that one of the project we did in our lab as well. We developed edible packaging. So we put the coffee there in that biodegradable, not biodegradable, edible, and you don't have to throw anything. You can drink that coffee together. So package is gone there, inside there. So this is a small thought in the lab, but this can be possible to bring to the industries. Like you can see in the upper, that is also one of my doctoral students did the research, and we developed the membrane systems which can be wrapping the meat, what is that, meatballs. The fish balls or meatballs were wrapped. So if you want to make the soup, make soup with these edible, the packaging. So you don't have to throw anymore, you are eating those. And these are the, it has already proteins or polysaccharides. So there is no problem consuming those as well. Okay, so that helps also. The last part of is food safety, which is very much essential now to how to, and the safety is major issue, like I told you that we are, and in the safety, the much more thing is the policy here. There are proper guidelines have been given, we know that the quality assurance, quality management systems are there, but the policy has to bring strictly. There are certain things has to be mandatory for the industry, for the retailers, for the farmers, for the growers and at the consumer level as well. And they are the way you can make that more sustainable. And that's the COVID-19 obviously make more prone, and we need to think twice as well now, because there are the lays like the people, we need to have the distance maintaining as well. You need to have a lot more things to utilize when you go to the working in the industries there. And there is another way of industry, or even the policy developers or who are working as a food safety, they need to think how to eliminate the possible causative agents or the hazards, possible hazards, which is not there, that you can bring to the consumers nicely, fully of the safer food. Okay. In the not only the production side, but supply chain is very important, that you have the safer food, and that gives there. Now we utilize the digital technologies, utilizing the IoT based technologies or the blockchain technology which is coming, where you have the interlinkages, and it can be, and it's very nice. Some of our colleagues also in Europe already working that the packaging system, you put some nano chips there, and the consumer, if you buy some products, you will be tracked down whether you are proper storage or not. So that type of systems need to be more developed, which will be more sustainable, more safer, producing to the healthier societies. Okay, so all these things I try to make the issues in 15-20 minutes. You cannot, but obviously will be more getting from you as well what I give. So what we think here, what we eat, we know that one. So that will give you better society, and make a food as a medicine itself. That's the aim of this room. I try to bring the attention by many ways. With this, I would like to thank you, all of you who are in this room as well as on the digital screen. Thank you very much. Okay, now without further delay, I would call the next session. And the next session is our panel discussion. For this panel discussion, I will just take the name first here, and then after 10 minutes of their presentations, each presenter I will briefly introduce again. So we have 3 panelist presentations experts here. Professor Sylvie, which is from France. She is with us here. You can see her on the screen. I have here Dr. Nangnuch with me, and may I request you to come. We have Dr. Nangnuch is from NSTDA, National Science and Technology Development Agencies, Thailand. And we have Dr. Win, who is the Executive Director of Sustainable Rice Platforms. Dr. Win is also there. You can see on a screen. Obviously the topic is the same, looking for sustainable lifestyle, how this innovation and connectivity can help to make the better food production systems, utilization of those resources, and then also utilize maximize, so that the industry, the growers, the farmers can get benefited as well. At the same time, our societies get much healthier and get the better society, I can say, or sustainable society as well. So that's the aim. With this, I would like to request first our first speaker, Professor Sylvie Avalon. She is actually a professor at the Institut Agro and Institut Agro, Montpellier, France. So she is based there. For her, still morning there. She is also the Deputy Director of the Institute for Higher Education in Tropical Agri-Food Science, and she is the member of the Scientific Committee of UNESCO Chair World Food Systems. So very glad to be her here. She has been very active, especially on the food and nutrition security. And she has a bit long experience already, also working in Southeast Asia. Actually, I'm very glad to introduce you, her. We have been involved in a couple of projects already together for the Southeast Asia on the food safety sides as well. And I would like to thank her as well to join this. So Professor Sylvie, the floor is yours. Please take time and give your thought. And the audience, please make your questions in the chat box. I hope you have been already writing. Please send some so our repertoire can bring those questions. After this, we'll have all three panelists when they finish, then we can have this question and answer sessions. Professor Sylvie.
Thank you, Anil, for having invited me to participate to this policy dialogue. I'm just going to briefly come back to the importance of nutrition. As you have already said, I'm specialized in nutrition, food security in least developed country, and I have been working mainly on micronutrient deficiency and how is it possible to improve nutrition by the use of local food and traditional foods. So we know that food is at heart of a sustainable development issue, and we have built a framework to show the link that are existing between food system and distinct outcome, and particularly nutritional and health outcome, but also social, economic, and environmental ones. So we clearly see in this picture that nutrition outcome are linked to diet, to consumer behavior, but also to the food environment who is shaping the consumer behavior, and then the supply chain who are bringing the food to the city and the rural area. We also know that food and nutrition is linked to 8 SDGs. I have listed them, but it is the most important who are linked to food issue. But I'm going to speak mainly about the zero hunger and good health and well-being. I would like to come back briefly to the most important nutrition outcome of our current food system. We know that we have still a lot of problem with our food system because we have a triple burden of malnutrition worldwide. And this triple burden of malnutrition is contributing to premature death in northern country and in southern country. The most important issues are still undernutrition. A lot of people are still underweight, and children, particularly under 5, are really concerned. 2 billion people are suffering of micronutrient deficiencies, particularly in vitamin A, iron, zinc, and iodine. And at the same time, we have 2 billion people that are overweighted in a lot of countries, big cities, and also northern countries, and 600 million of obese people. We know that these problems of malnutrition are contributing since decades in premature death, as it was already said, because, for example, undernutrition or micronutrient deficiencies are decreasing the immunity of people, and they are then really at risk with diarrhea or virus infection. Now, with the COVID crisis, we also see that overweight, as it is contributed to chronic disease such as obesity, diabetes, or hypertension, is really a big problem because it can contribute to severe form of COVID with high risk of hospitalization, high risk of severe form of COVID, and mortality. So we see again with this particular sanitary crisis that nutrition is really linked to health and mortality, and it's really important to improve the food system. We have seen that our food system has a great impact on nutrition and health, and that we still have a high number of people who have a problem of denutrition and overnutrition. So it's really important to change our food system, and we need to improve the food supply chain, the food environment, but also the consumer behavior. I'm just going to give an example, for example, of improvements that are possible at the level of food system in traditional food system. The traditional food system is the family farming that is really important in this developed country. People in that situation are mainly farmers. And when we are making survey, we are seeing that their diets are lacking of diversity. They are exposed to great seasonality according to territories and climates. And when we analyze the food that are consumed by poorest people, we see that they are obtaining their food by family farming, but they are also obtaining food from their environment. And some ecosystems are very high feeding function, particularly when people are living near forest or lake. As we still have undernutrition and micronutrient deficiencies in this traditional food system, it's really important to strengthen them for more food security and more nutrition. And here I have made a list of distinct strategies that can allow to strengthen the local food system. For example, we still have to diversify the crops and animals in family farming, and we have to do so along the year to make available the healthier diet. We also have to connect farmers to post-harvest technology to decrease the losses that are still important worldwide. We can also valorize traditional recipes by integrating them in a food composition table or dietary guideline. Why? Because the traditional recipes are based on local food, and this will contribute to generate more incomes for local farmers. Another point is that it is necessary to protect fragile ecosystem when they have high feeding function. For example, it's still important to protect forest and some lakes that are important for local food security. And is it in link with the SDG on climate, life below water, and life on land? Because we know that we have a great loss of biodiversity around the world. Now we are going to speak about the improvement of food environment. We know with lesson learned from epidemiological studies that we have at international level an increasing consumption of ultra-processed food worldwide. They are becoming dominant in the food system. And the problem with this food is that they have a high content of energy, fat, sugar, salt. They have no matrix effect. They are poor in protein and fiber and micronutrient. And sometimes they have very big portion. The problem with high consumption of ultra-processed food is that in the long term, they contribute to weight gain, obesity, non-communicable disease, and cancer, and it was demonstrated in several countries. These non-communicable diseases are increasing the number of deaths, the public health costs, and the comorbidity is really visible in the COVID crisis, because when people have comorbidities, they have a high risk of death during this disease. So how is it possible to improve the food environment? We can use distinct type of tools. And for example, the labeling of food is important to help consumers in making healthier choice. In France, we have developed the Nutri-Score labeling, but several countries have done such type of initiative, and it can help the consumer to choose a better product and better diet. We can also engage the industry in commitment in terms of nutritional aspect. And this is more and more done at industrial level. They are trying to be more transparent, to give more information about their product. We see in Europe that the clean label are getting more and more interest for the industry, but also for the consumer themselves. And we observe a new formulation improvement with less salt, less sugar, and less saturated fat. And it's really important positive point. Public policy have also to be built, taking into account the nutritional and health issue, and they can define rules and law to improve the food environment, for example, by decreasing advertisement on television, but also in school, etc. Now it's my last slide. How is it possible to improve the consumer behavior? It's really important to have more healthy lifestyle, as it was already said before. But what is it, healthy lifestyle? It integrates healthy diet, physical activity, and the way we are living. For the diet side, we see that according to the country or to the area where we are living, if we are living in big cities or in rural area, the nutritional disorders are not always the same. For example, in northern countries and northern diets, we observe a lot of NCDs, obesity, and chronic disease. And in that case, healthy diet is based on more protective food with fruit, vegetable, whole grain, and for example, coffee and tea. We have protective food that are interesting, but that must be limited, such as, for example, fish and dairy. And in this diet, people are eating too much red meat, too much sugar with soda and beverage. So the healthy diet has to be moderate. Then in sub-Saharan diet and Southeast Asian diet, we observe more micronutrient deficiencies and sometimes undernourishment in rural area. In this situation, we have to encourage people to move on healthy diet based on more animal product, more fresh food and vegetable and fruit, and they have to limit starchy products and for example, tea, because we know that tea can have problem with some micronutrient deficiency. So we see that just as a consumer, when we choose some type of food, we can increase our nutritional status, and we have to promote healthy diet that are compatible with sustainability. And it's really important to observe the particular place of meat. In some countries, it has to be increased, but in a lot of northern country, we have to decrease the consumption of this type of food. So here it was my last slide. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Sylvie. Yeah, and here, few people clap here because that was the purpose, to bring the people in the room. Otherwise, in the Zoom, there is no clapping. So thank you very much. Like Professor Sylvie mentioned that it is the nutrition, how you can incorporate even in the labeling that the people, consumers are aware through that there is a less, suppose example of the sugar, salt, less sugar, less salt, less saturated fatty acids. Those are not incorporated there, or you have the reduced amount that can be. And also, I think the last slide was very clear message giving that it's a healthy lifestyle plus the nutrition that can give our sustainable lifestyle. So I think that is the message coming from there, and I hope the industry will be moving, that we can make, and the industry can move if there is no, the policy has to be very firm with that. And that's our message from here. We are trying to bring through the science the message that the policy has to be such a way developed that can be industry formed, so consumer get more benefit. Thank you, Professor Sylvie. Now we have the next the speaker, the expert, Dr. Nangnuj Pulsawat. She is a senior researcher at that Technology and Informatics Institute for Sustainability, TIIS, at the National Science and Technology Development Agency, NSTDA, Thailand. She has been working on a lot more on the life cycle assessment, LCA, earlier as well, especially for the different groups in NASDA itself. But overall, her work has been quite sustainable consumptions and production in various modalities. And she will be, today she will be more focusing on same sustainable consumption and productions, especially focus on food sites. And she will also give a brief idea of how Thailand is trying to move with this aim and how we can make behavior and that. And she has long expertise actually on these different modeling systems to work on this. So having Dr. Nangnuch is pleasure for us, and thank you very much. She is actually beside me, not on the Zoom, so I feel more comfortable now. Somebody here, and I give you floor.
Actually,
She's doing your doing? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Anil, for a very good introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm so proud to be here. Actually, I would like to share the NASDA research work and our team that relate to the sustainability. Actually, first of all, can I go to the next slide?
Next slide.
Actually, I want to show you the NASDA that we have a lot of research based on the food and agriculture. These actually we know that in STDA or NASDA we have many national research center. It means we have a lot of technology or many field to develop on the food and agriculture. You can see the figure that can show we have a variance of the research that try to support the food and agricultural sector. Can we go to the next slide? But now for the NSTDA, we try to implement the BCG model. This model is quite new for us because this model proposed by former Science and Technology Ministry, Dr. Sweet Mesinsi, and we try to follow this model. This model is an integrate between bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy to drive the economy in Thailand, also to improve the quality of life in Thailand as well. And for the next one, please. Why we need the BCG model? Actually, the BCG model try to integrate and try to aware about the when we use the resource or material, everything, we need to think about how we consumption and how we earn from the resource that we use. This graph show that you can see the domestic material consumption and material footprint in Thailand and many countries. You can see when you compare the material footprint and domestic material consumption in Thailand per capita, you can see actually Thailand use not much for the material consumption. But when you look another figure, you can see when you think about the material domestic material consumption and material footprint per GDP, in Thailand we use a lot of resource to produce only $1. It means we need to think about how to use the resource efficiency is better than now. It means for the next one, please. We need to think about how to develop the BCG model in the good way and can improve our efficiency. And for the NSTDA, we think that the BCG model can also implement in many sectors. But for the first stage in Thailand, we pick only four sectors, and food and agricultural sector is the one of the sector that we would like to implement on the BCG model. For the three more is around the like materials, like health and wellness, and also the tourism. But when you look at the food and agricultural sector, we have a lot of situations that very challenge for conform the BCG model. You can see like around 12 million people are working in the agricultural sector, or around 32% of the total labor force, but we can contribute only the 6% for GDP. And for the 90% of agricultural of land use, we limit to only the major crop, consists of rice, sugarcane, cassava, rubber, oil palm, and maize. And for the challenge for this sector, we have like the challenge about the crop price and income of the farmer, and also about the natural resource. And the last one, for the workforce in this sector, we have the ages agro workforce. For the NSTDA, we try to find the solution to propose the to decrease the production cost, in the same time improve the productivity and develop like high value and high quality of agro product. And in STDA, we also provide the advanced infrastructure to prepare and to develop some innovation to support this sector as well. Next one, please. Next. This graph would like to show you, this graph, I would like to show you the production of the crop. Like for the left-hand side, we show the major crop like rice, maize, and oil palm. You can see since 2019 or 2020, the production crop is decreased, but it's not affect much for the another crops. The main problem about the COVID is we have no worker work on this crop, because for the rice, maize, and oil palm, we use a lot of worker for this production. And I would like to show you the impact from the COVID-19. It found that we have the highly negative impacts, and also food security due to the reduction in the global food supply and trade, and also hunger due to about the in the income and reduced food availability, and also the food loss and waste and poor nutrition. For the next one, please. This one, I would like to show you our work that based on the sustainable agriculture. In our research, we try to encourage the farmer to change the monoculture to agroforestry, and also to be the sustainable agriculture. We actually, our background is we try to assessment the environmental impact. We use the factor of productivity, also the agronomic factor, materials, fertilizer, or how to improve the quality of the production. And we also have the research on the apply the sustainability indicator in the animal feed production. And also we try to find the GHG quantification and sustainability in on the sloping agricultural area. Also find a way to use the agricultural residue. This one we try to focus on the farm production, because we know that for the food supply chain, the agriculture or cultivation is very starting point, or it's quite main important when you go to the next step of food supply chain. But for our work, is not only focused on only farm production. We also, for the next slide, we also focus on the food supply chain from the harvesting to the household consumption. Now we work with the National Food Loss and Food Waste Index to calculate and to develop the Thailand baseline with many partners in my country. Now we are going to develop like a food loss index by using 10 major crops in Thailand. We call Thailand basket of community. For example, you can see from the slide, like we have like chicken, oil palm, cassava, sugarcane, and other crop that is already represent our country. And on the other side, since the retail and household consumption, we also work with the government sector to develop the food waste index as well. This one, these two index is very important and quite difficult for us, because in Thailand we didn't have this index before. But we try to estimate and how to, and when we know the best life of our country, we will know about the way to improvement. And for the last one, I would like to show you like the current work that we try to integrate the idea from the circular economy metrics for the sustainable lifestyle. Of course, for the sustainable lifestyle, we focus on like a main activity. In recently, we focus on 3 activities area about food and drinks, housing, and mobility. We will use the circularity metrics to evaluate like for each activity, and try to evaluate like how long we will get the sustainable lifestyle for each activity. And this is our current project. And we know that like the circular economy can design out the waste and pollution for economic activities, and try to retain the products and material in use for as long as possible, and regenerating natural resource system. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nongnuch. This is the case. Like you can see that how the resources which is generated as a waste can be efficiently utilized, and how it can affect on the environmental as well as a sustainable to our sustainability, as well as the human lifestyle as well. Like see till just last slide you saw there, they're putting that the project continuing in how you can natural resources, the resources which is generated there can be used especially for 3 things: in food, feed, or in the housing, or in the mobility, and how you can incorporate. There you have the remaining, the waste, those resources can be efficiently utilized. Okay, thank you, Dr. Nongnuch. And we have the last but not the least, the speaker of this afternoon, Dr. William Wynne Ellis. Okay, Doctor is on the screen now. And he is the Executive Director of the Sustainable Rice Platform, which is a global multi-stakeholder partnership comprising over 100 institutional members, okay, including convened by the UN Rice Research Institute. together with different private sectors and research and civil society partners. Dr. Ellis has spent more than 33 years in Asia, working, especially advising on agriculture, development, agro-innovation, and with different development agencies, including UN, ADB, GIZ, and other private companies and government organizations. So he has a long experiences working in Asia. So I'm sure we get from he will be as the executive director working on sustainable rice platform. And you know, the rice is for us every meal, and how it can be future to be more utilized, more could be lifestyle changing. So we get some viewpoint from Dr. Ellis as well, and he will be sharing with us what his office or his organization is doing at this moment. So thank you very much, Dr. Wynne Willis, for being with us and giving time. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Professor Daniel, for your kind introduction. I'm really honored to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me. I hope that this short talk will offer a different perspective to the previous speakers and add to the richness of this discussion. So basically, food supply chains become longer and longer over the years, and we've often really have no clue how our food is consumed or how our choices and demands as consumers affect farmers' livelihoods, and how they affect the climate and indeed the environment generally. And it is this disconnect between supply and demand that I submit has contributed, at least in part, to what is today a broken global food system. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll be using rice as an example to show how we are trying in the Sustainable Rice Platform to try to recreate these linkages, inform consumer choices, and conserve our environment. And as a case study in technology, in networking, and in collaboration, I wanted to recognize, first of all, the efforts of UNEP as a co-founder of the Sustainable Rice Platform, and AIT itself, who many of you might be surprised to learn undertook the very first and seminal piece of research, fieldwork, with CIRAD back in 2009, I think, before my time. And they looked into GHG emissions in rice in the Chao Phraya River Basin, and that really provided the evidence base that triggered the establishment of SRP. So it's another good reason to be here today. So thank you, AIT. A quick primer on rice. Basically, rice is grown on 160 million hectares, 144 million smallholders. So 1 in 4 of the world's farmers is a rice farmer. And roughly half of the world population relies on rice as a daily staple. And many of those live near the poverty line. If you superimpose a map of global poverty over a map of rice production, you will see a very close correspondence. So both at the consumption and the production ends, there's a lot of poverty associated with rice. And of course, in terms of consumption, about 19% of dietary energy globally is met through rice. So it is really important that in discussions on sustainable consumption and production that we do include rice in the conversation. In terms of the sustainability footprint.
Dr. Wynne, you have not shared the slide.
Oh my goodness, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Sorry for disturbing you, but I realize that
You're quite right. Sorry, so sorry.
Okay.
Let me go back to that last slide. Just are you able to see it now?
Now, yeah, you can see it. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, you can continue. No problem.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that last slide here to show the importance of rice, both from a production context and also in terms of its importance to in global consumption as well, and in its contribution to dietary energy. Okay, so in terms of water security, we can see enormous changes globally in the way that rice is grown, is produced, consumed, and imported. And Africa is a particular risk here, with enormous forecasts of water short scarcity in the coming years, but it's also the fastest growing region in the world in terms of rice production, consumption, and import. So it's a ticking time bomb in Africa, but as you see, South and Southeast Asia are also really, really impacted. And ADB predicts that, in fact, over the next 25 years, rice production in these areas in Southeast Asia will actually decline, and production will move north and west. Rice is also responsible for maybe up to 10% of global methane emissions. So it's a massive contributor to climate change, as well as being, of course, one of its a major victim of climate change too. In terms of biodiversity, unsustainable food production is really important and contributes to habitat loss, mainly through excessive use of fertilizers, pesticides, and inappropriate water management in rice fields. Not to forget that irrigated rice fields are a very rich source of biodiversity, and is in fact the richest ecosystem for water birds in the world. So it's important that we conserve these ecosystems as well. In summary then, rice really has a critical sustainability footprint, and whether you look at it in whatever metric you use, the efforts that have been given to sustainability in other commodities like coffee, like tea, like palm oil, really pale into insignificance when you compare them with rice. So, we really must talk about rice when it comes to sustainability. Okay, against that backdrop, we see an increase in demand over the next 25 years, and indeed a shortfall of 25% in order to meet the growing demand, even when you discount changes in consumption and lifestyles, which are reducing the per capita consumption of rice. So it is really important that we feed the world sustainably and produce this rice, this increasing amount of rice that we are going to need, and we produce it sustainably without adding to the impact on environment and without adding to impacts on climate change. So this is the rationale for the establishment of the Sustainable Rice Platform, which, as I mentioned, was initiated by International Rice Research Institute and UNEP with AIT's support and CIRAD's support way back in 2009. And it is a global partnership, and you can see in the in the center here, in terms of the stakeholder partnership, roughly just over half of our members are private sector members. We also have civil society, governments, international organizations, and financial actors too. So it's a very broad stakeholder community that we work with. And this is, I think, one of our strongest assets, because we work by consensus and we ensure that what we produce is acceptable across this stakeholder community. So it might take us a little longer to get there, but once we get there, we know we have agreement. So really, we sit at the center of a really interesting space, which encompasses, it's in between production, consumption, research, and policies. It's at the nexus of all of those different elements, different components. So this is a very exciting space to occupy for me personally. What do we do? Well, we have very much focused over the last few years at the farm level, on the supply side, to basically understand what can we do to help farmers produce more rice with a lower environmental footprint. And this is what led to the establishment of the world's first sustainability standard, alongside a set of sustainability indicators. So we can both advocate best practice and also assess the impact of adopting that best practice. And this has been really important. And I'll show you the next slide, how that's panned out. Turning now to the demand side, we just in last September launched the SRP verified eco label, which is the label that you see down here, which will be an on-pack label. And associated with it is a private sector assurance scheme. So that will allow sustainable procurement of rice and on-pack labels and so on. We also do programs in order to upscale the adoption of these best practices, working with different consortia. And I'll say a bit more about that shortly. And because of our secretariat's hosting within the UNEP offices in Bangkok, in the regional office for Asia and Pacific, we have a lot of entry points into UNEP's program of work, and particularly so currently within the Sustainable Food Systems Task Force, which is positioning UNEP's role within COP26, the Sustainable Food Innovation Summit, and SDG initiatives as well, including food loss and waste. And lastly, then, we are working on larger scale green finance opportunities, such as green bonds. And the green bond market has largely ignored rice over the last 25 years, and we think it's time to change. So we have some very interesting conversations going on the green finance side as well. So those are the sort of things that we are doing on a day-to-day basis, spanning both private and public sector spheres. We piloted the standard after we launched it in 2015 in about 13 countries. And what we saw over 2 or 3 seasons of work in these very different production contexts was a very common, a very sort of familiar pattern, really. We saw reductions in emissions from flooded rice, from irrigated rice. We saw savings in water use. We saw reductions in chemical use, fertilizers and pesticides, and overall increases in farmers' net incomes. So we saw this over this wide range of production and cultural contexts, which gives us the impression, of course, gives us confidence that we're doing something right. So, you know, knowing that we can actually improve farmers' income is a very fundamental factor in encouraging us to obviously want to scale up. So let me say a few words about the assurance scheme, which we just launched. It's an eco label that is backed by the UN, by UNEP. And of course, it allows consumers now to choose sustainable rice on supermarket shelves. And just last week, actually, our very first commitment came through from Lidl, which is one of the world's largest food retailers. It has 10,000 stores worldwide. And they will be putting SRP rice on their supermarket shelves beginning next year. So this is a very exciting moment for us. And we expect, of course, other retailers in Europe to begin to come on board as well right now. The scheme is managed by Global Gap, which is responsible, as some of you probably know, for managing many different proprietary assurance schemes. It helps supermarkets and supply chain actors de-risk their supply chains. Downstream actors are very concerned about resilience in this and ensuring security of supply, and this helps to achieve that. It also contributes to transparency in the value chain through chain of custody standards as well. Okay, so this is the assurance program. This is what it does. It de-risks the supply chain. It helps to create market differentiation. It provides a very clear, transparent way of implementing sustainable procurement for retailers. And because policymakers in the producing countries are really looking for their lead to private sector actors, it contributes to policy alignments. When governments are confident that it's working in the private sector, only then will they jump in and start actually implementing it in their own policy work. So having achieved some success, I would say some early success on the supply side, how can we upscale these achievements and contribute to a truly transformative impact at a sector level? And I want to just draw attention to one consortium that I helped to set up about 18 months ago. And this is an organization with 6 different partners, basically UNEP, FAO, the World Council for Sustainable Development, World Business Council for Sustainable Development, IRI, and GIZ, the German Technical Cooperation, and SRP. And we have just worked with the Global Environment Facility and governments around the region, the South and Southeast Asian region. And we've just had $50 million approved by Jeff, the Global Environment Facility, to establish projects in a number of countries in South and Southeast Asia, including here in Thailand. So we're very excited at the possibility that we can roll out SRP standard as the core of these larger scale projects, which also take us beyond the farm to landscape level activities. So it's important that we don't look at rice alone, but we look at it in its context in the landscape and look at landscape level impacts and ecosystem services that rice delivers to the landscapes and also to consumers. So this is our last slide, and this is just a summary. Basically, our goal over the next 2 years is we are now reaching around 500,000 farmers around the world in 21 countries. We want to expand that and deepen our engagement to reach 1 million farmers by 2023. We are working to improve livelihoods, reduce the water and carbon footprint. We are working to remake those connections between farmers and producers, from farms and markets, farmers and markets. We are working to contribute to the SDGs. Our performance indicators are mapped to the SDGs. That's important, I think. And we have those different modalities. So let me stop there. I think we are beyond our time. So thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to answer any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Owen. And okay, it's nice overview actually giving that and what has been doing and where it is and what you are moving. I think there will be very good example for, especially in all our countries, we have the rice is one of the staple food and habit production. And we see that what is the problem with the water management and as also the carbon footprint the rice is bringing. And very happy to know that your program or your organizations along with the others working, trying to reduce that one. I think that will be a good example and implementation. Good luck for your new project coming. I think we will be happy to have from there to bringing in all the regions that will be benefited from your sides. So I think there are a lot of people listening here. They may be approaching on that, and then for the policy developers as well, it will be good to bringing together and working. I think, and then if any questions coming after this, will be good for question and answer session. Okay, with this, I think we have from the speakers, for all the 3 speakers, thank you very much. Can we clap for? And we'll be coming back for the question and answer session again for all 3 the panels. In between, we have launching of a book. The book is called Green Noses. And to launch this book, I would like to invite Ms. Mari Nishimura and Associate Professor Dr. Kitty Korn. From the Ms. Nari Nishimura is actually works at UNEP, headquartered in Kenya, in Nairobi. She leads the work on behavioral changes on campus and green jobs for youth. And she has been also working in SDG 12 for Paris. And also our the Associate Professor Dr. Kitty Korn, the 2 jointly they will be launching this book. He is at this moment Associate Professor in Mahidol University. And also he has been serving as Vice President for Environment and Sustainable Development of Mahidol University. He has long experience working on the environmental science and technology and all these green technology actually. So we are happy to be both of you here, and I now give you floor to give your brief about this book and launch the book, and good luck with that one.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Mari Nishimura, and we're so happy to be able to present to you the Little Book of Green Nudges at this regional policy dialogue. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I've prepared a video for you, and then by the end of this session, I hope more universities in the region are interested in joining us, become the pilot university of the Little Green Nudge project. Thank you so much, and I enjoyed the video and the speech by Professor Kitikon Chamundusit. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Mari Nishimura. I work for UNEP's Education and Youth Unit, and I would like to present to you our new publication, The Little Book of Green Nudges. We want to help universities around the world significantly reduce their environmental impact through behavioral change.
As students spend most of their time on campus, they're establishing habits and routines in many aspects of their lives. We thought university represents a key timely moment for intervention. Our new publication offers a set of simple guidelines targeted at universities for applying behavioral insights to promote a range of pro-environmental behaviors.
Okay, Dr. Kitty Kwan.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, my name is Kitty Kwan. I'm a Vice President for Environment and Sustainable Development at Mahidol University. First of all, I would like to thanks to inviting me to speak at the session of the launching the Little Book of Green Nudge. One of the keys for using Green Nudge is to make it easy. This includes setting sustainable option as default. Thai people typically has balanced diet, but at the same time, there are a lot of drinks. So at the cafe, which contain a lot of sugar, and they are offering to customers by default. I am trying to change this on my campus. Instead of getting sugary drinks automatically, if students are asked how much sugar they want in their drinks, and the quantity is visualized in front of them, it automatically makes students rethink about their consumption. This is the first step of behavioral change. Green Nudge gives us opportunities to think and behave more sustainably, allow our small daily choice. Another key element to make it attractive. This includes using incentives. In our university, 3R concept plays a major role. For example, single-use plastics come with almost any takeaway food and drinks. Well, reduction is also encouraged on my campus. We also try to recycle them as much as possible. In Mahidol University, we have set up a recycle waste bank, which operates right just like a real bank in your city, except you can deposit recyclables. When students and community members come and deposit their plastic bottles, they earn saving in their booklet, from which they can choose to withdraw cash or accumulate in balance. Our recycle bank works not only for plastics, but also glasses and papers. So far, we have reached the monetary value of over 300,000 US dollars from recyclable waste on our campus. Finally, in the next 10 years, will be the final decade of UN Sustainable Development Goals projects. Due to its aims to achieve its goal in year 2030. Since the sustainability is the global issue, we purposefully ask you to support this project. We must save the environment of our planet for the next generation. We have no plan B because we have no planet B. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mary Nishimura and Dr. Kirtiko. Thank you very much. Would be happy to implement some of the activities in AIT with this platform. We can discuss further. And it is very nice to see green noses, and we have very young students are sitting here in this room and obviously on the Zoom as well. They are listening, and very much glad to see that even giving the sugar and showing the effect immediately, that I will be very much, I think I can be immediately implementing in AIT if looking that. We have been doing some such type of activities in cafeteria and snack bars like that too, but it's not so easy. But then giving and calculating those things and giving instant effect would be much beneficial for that as well. So thank you very much, and we will be coming, and we wish.
You are welcome.
Yeah,
Professor Anil.
We don't have planet B, we have only planet A. So we should be plan A, no plan B.
Professor Anil.
And I think that's a good lesson for all of us, not only for the young generation, but all of us. That's
Professor Anil, may I, Professor Anil?
Sure.
Professor, yeah, may I have a small talk, because I would like to bring Marie in to make sure that how you apply to the nudge.
Okay.
Marie, you want
Yes,
to have
thank
a few
you.
minutes? Yeah, please.
Actually, is there the same slide that there was a continuation of the presentation actually in the recording? Is it possible to play right after the video? And it has instruction on how to join this project. And I was wondering if that's possible to play.
How long is that?
Less than 4 minutes, I think.
Less than 2 minutes.
Four.
4 minutes. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, it is available for sharing or not? I mean, anybody can see. If you share, we can share with later.
It's a positive and gentle persuasion to influence.
You can skip if you want.
Decisions. And that let's have a look at this slide. You're looking at alphabet A, B, C, but what if it looks like this? Suddenly, alphabet B becomes 13. This is an example of how we are influenced by context in automatic thinking, and we're trying to utilize it on campus, but to persuade positive and more sustainable behaviors among students. Today, there are 200 million students enrolled in higher education, and their life choices will have an enormous impact on our economy, society, and the environment. Actually, Generation Z consumer power accounts for $100 billion. This is actually an equivalent of annual cost of meeting the SDG 6.1 and 6.2. So we're trying to influence the lifestyle choices of these 200 million students around domains of lifestyles, something that Garrett mentioned earlier. In our book, we have 8 action areas for universities to help students live more sustainably. That includes water and energy consumption, sustainable diet, reduced food waste, and more recycling, less material consumption, sustainable travel, and also engaging and supporting. If you want to encourage a behavior, we must make it easy, attractive, social, and timely. We call this EAST framework. It was created by Behavioral Insights team, which was formerly affiliated with the UK government. And these are the 4 simple principles which our book uses for applying behavioral insights. EAST is just one of many frameworks and typologies, but we use this for its simplicity and also applicability to our day-to-day life, which is exactly what we need for students. For example, in order to nudge students to choose plant-based diet, one way to nudge them is to make it attractive. And if we want to reduce food waste, One way to achieve that would be to simply place smaller plate as a default. Default setting makes it easier for people to choose sustainable options. It's an absolute honor to present Professor Kitty Korn Charman-Dusit from Mahidol University to share with you the actual experience from implementing green nudges on campus. But before we go to that, I would like to show you how you can get involved. If you'd like to be a part of our Green Nudging project, please visit unep.org/nudges and nominate your campus to be the pilot. The deadline is on the 18th of November, and we already have more than 200 universities sign up to be a part of this project. All you have to do is on the form, simply choose actions from the book, and you'll be invited to the series of webinars and also to the platform where you get to connect with the others and exchange good practice, and ultimately to make your campus spark. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Okay, that will be, so we got the platform where is that, and then I hope as an institute as well, as an individual, the people will get benefit from there. Thank you very much. And actually, all of us would like to have these nudges to follow and to get it. So thank you again. Thank you very much, Nishimura and Dr. Kitty Korn, for being with us and giving this information, which is very much useful and timely needed as well. I go back now to the question and answer session, where we have some queries from the audience. And I would like a request to the speakers this afternoon with the relevant, or even if you have some idea, please. So I'll be giving a question, and if any particular or any of us, I mean the speakers can reflect. Excuse me.
Anil, do you hear me? It's Sylvie from Montpellier.
Yes.
In the chat, I have received very interesting questions. Maybe I can answer to the overall people. You hear me? Do you hear me? Anil? I'm sorry, I don't hear anything.
Professor Anil, are you there? I think we lost AIT.
Okay.
Let me check with them. We are approaching the last session, which is Q&A. Someone from AIT is collecting all the questions from the chat box. But if you notice that any question that will be addressed to you, please feel free to raise it.
Can you wait? There was a little bit network problem in AIT.
Now you're back.
Yeah. Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there was, sorry for that. There's a network problem from AIT. I think Poly AIT has got some sudden, like as you mentioned, today is Friday and the 13th. So there is likely to happen something, no? So we got that one. Okay, we have a, can you drop down that the screen? We have some questions. Like Sylvie already mentioned, there was some interesting question as well. I'll go one by one. see. Okay, one of the first question I have here, what can UNEP suggest or be its role other than educating people? A sustainable lifestyle at the end of the day comes down to individual choice. Okay, this is question for UNEP.
Okay.
So yeah, Ms. Tuni, if you can suggest quick answer or quick suggestion to the people.
Okay. Suggestion from UNEP for individual decision is actually you must educate yourself. But as I said, we are come from the science background. Please do not rely only one source. You must looking for more than one of the sources for information to make your decision. And I'm happy that now with the question, it's reflect that it's individual decision at the end, that we don't need to wait for the government, for the private sector, or from the research to guide you what to change. But it's really your choice to make a change, to be sustainable. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I do agree, individual, and individual means like if you start individually train yourself, you are in training the neighbor as well. So one-to-one, it becoming like many. I think that is the lesson we should get there as well. But obviously guidelines are there, the proper guidelines, what we learned from the education or through the various ways that can change our lifestyle, and that should be towards the sustainability. That's the individual responsibility. Obviously, there is a need of the policy to be implemented and that policy to be regulated. I think that's from my side as well. And the second one is interesting, and maybe Professor Shelby, if you can help. How do we measure and quantify sustainable lifestyle? Are there any frameworks, metrics to measure?
Yes, there is several frameworks that were built, and I have shown one of them, which is describing food system, nutrition, social, economic impact from the HLPE 3 years ago. And if we make a literature review on that topic, we find a distinct type of scale with indicator to measure the lifestyle sustainability. In research, there's a lot of work that has already been done. So the metric are existing as well as the framework, but I think that the difficulty now is to traduce this in the real life. It's really important, for example, to develop this type of metric at a level of a city, at a level of a school, for example, but we have to translate the research in practice. But it is existing.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sylvie. Yeah, for me, we are doing on the science, we have developed the metrics, we developed the indexes as well, indices as well, we quantify as well. But where is the hindrance? From my side, question, actually, that was the question of mine as well. Where is it like we are somewhere missing from the policy side, or if policy is also there, we are missing at the implementation. But if the policy is there, implementation should not be a problem. So is it at somewhere the science is missing to convince the policy to be implemented? I mean, how is your? Okay, that's the question still for me, and I think that will be what we are discussing today as the policy dialogue. Actually, that has to be somehow how the science can be converted into the policy and policy can be converted into the implementation. I think that's triangle we have to build up as a scientist as well as an implementer as well, both way. The number 3 questions is, what are the key points that consumers need to learn to improve their understanding of food as medicine and food safety? So Sylvie, you help me or should I answer?
Yes, maybe you will complete my response, but
yeah,
I
okay,
think
that
people who are working in nutrition and health, nutritionists are thinking that it's the diet is the solution. There is no miracle food, but if you respect the diversity of food in your daily meal, there is no risk to have a problem of nutrition. The most important problem is that as there is great inequities in all the countries, in northern country and in southern country, people do not have access on a daily basis to the healthy diet. So the problem is more that people don't have enough income to buy the healthy food every day and the healthy diet. But if it's not the case, if we have a really nutritional disorder because people do not have access to this food, then you can use medicine, you can use fortified food, supplement, etc. But it is the plan B, it is not the plan A. With only food, it's possible to have good nutrition and health.
Yeah, thank you, Priscilvi. Again, I think that's the right what I gave example in mind. 100 years back, if you go there, what we have been eating, what we have been getting own food, I think that's the lesson. If own food can be consumed, and when you think own food is always get the nutritious and more safer food as well. So that's the change need to bring for the industry as well, and that's the need to change the perceptions of the consumers as well that we are getting. Then designer foods comes there within that food systems, not like at the fortifications that like Sylvie mentioned as well, that's the plan B. So we don't need to go to plan B if you, what we have in surrounding us, if you start consuming that as a natural food, then we have enough nutrients itself. What we only need is, we need to quantify what we are eating. Like if you learn that a lot of people are trying to switch now plant-based food, but we know that the plant-based food does not have enough proteins. What we need to get, we are getting from animal food. But then if you try to bring many plant food together, you will get all the amino acids or the nutritious food as well there. So there is no harm. So what we leak is that we need to get aware, we need to understand that what is that, and that's why our thought is that food can be made as a medicine if you want, and it will enhance there as well. For the safety aspects, obviously there are key points like I mentioned. There should be some mandatory to bring their not only, and then thought has to bring to the consumer level as well, where you can have better. But industry or the policy, we have guidelines are given there, but that guidelines has to be implemented with some sort of mandatory systems to be developed. Only then we can get the safer food. Otherwise, you see that day by day we are getting much the contaminants, a lot of adulterants, a lot of hazards are around there that has to be omitted from the food systems. Okay, how can sustainable food systems help during pandemics? Dr. Wynn, you can suggest something?
Yeah, maybe I could take a crack at that one. Yeah, I think in terms of our roles in development, many of us are working in the field in projects and so on, and there's been a lot of repurposing amongst the development community to convert their day-to-day development work, their training work in the field with communities into 3 levels of intervention to support protect communities against pandemics. And the first is emergency responses, basically help distribute and help in the logistics of distribution of masks and so on, and food. And that's a very short-term measure to save lives, in fact. The second, more medium term, is to get people back on the land. One of the critical issues I've been observing in Pakistan, actually, in the rice sector there, is that, of course, there's a huge shortage of labor on the land. There's a huge shortage of labor in the supply chain, in logistics, in the ports. So to the extent that projects that are working with communities in the field can help in bringing and restoring production where it has been held back by labor shortages. That's a medium-term thing. And in the longer term, then, of course, to develop more robust and more resilient cropping systems that perhaps depend less on labor. You know, as we move towards more mechanized systems, this is an inevitable trend, I think, in around the world, to have more resilient cropping systems, to have more diverse cropping systems that you know, can be managed during these times of crisis.
Thank you, Dr. Win. The one question I think I'll request Dr. Nongnuch if you can highlight a little bit. The question came as COVID-19 has caused havoc to the food value chains. What will be the priority now? Many challenges possible. Okay, that's one thing. Or there is a gap in food insecurity, developed and developing countries. What may be the most pressing solution now to maintain sustainable lifestyle? So
I think for the COVID-19, every country, even like a developed or developing country, also have effect, but it depends on like some country have not much. But I think for our country, in Thailand, for example, for the agricultural sector and food supply chain, I think we have a lot of problem about the income, because before that, especially the small farming, we had a lot of effect from COVID-19, because in our country or also developing country, the farmer is not like have not much about the income, and their earn not much money, and when they have some effect, they can't support ourselves or their family. I think the main problem from our country or developing country, the monoculture is very big problem, because they have only one agricultural, like when they have the cultivation, for example, only maize, they for the whole year or the whole area that they have, they already plant the maize. If the effect from the trade or economic, they can't support themselves. I think if they try, the government try to support them for like agroforestry or many ways to earn money, I think it should be better to make them have more stronger than now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that gives some way to reaching towards the sustainable lifestyle. I will stop there. Questions. There are a few questions as well there with the time concerning, but I will move to the speakers. Just from my side, take 1 minute to just suggest the overall question for your thought. Like we are talking about in policy dialogue on sustainable lifestyles. So what is your thought, or what is your say for how the policy can be implemented where we are missing in your context, which can reach that it could be implemented either as a farmer, producers, growers, or the processors, or as a consumer, where we are missing, where the policy can bring, and the bridge can be done as a scientist or as a development agencies or as a practitioner. So I would like each of you to give just like a thought. So that will be tomorrow. It can be like a white paper, or it can be us that as output from today's conversation, you can say. So can I start with Dr. Win, first you, if you can suggest?
Yes, thank you. So rice is critical to global food security, and it has the biggest sustainability footprint. So in terms of the SDGs, we really need, there are many different touch points for rice. Rice offers a good entry point for interventions addressing many of the SDGs, even additional to climate, food and water security. If we want to make a real difference and achieve a transformation of the rice sector or any other sector, actually, we need three things. We need, on the supply side, we need practical tools that help farmers improve their livelihoods. We need policies that incentivize best practice uptake at scale. And on the demand side, we need a focus on sustainable procurement among downstream supply chain actors and retailers. And we also need to foster consumer awareness of the impact of their choices on farmers, on the climate and the environment. And lastly, collaboration amongst stakeholders is obviously key to reconnect consumers with farmers and to generate the scale and transformative impact that will contribute to achieving a sustainable future for our children. And just to comment on the policy question on COVID, I think it's really important that we learn lessons from recent events, because half of the world's traded rice was wiped off the market this year when countries impose export quotas. Countries like Vietnam, I think, and other countries as well impose bans or quotas, which reduced the amount of rice traded and increased their prices. In response, West African countries imposed a price cap on domestic rice prices, which led to reductions in imports into those countries, which caused shortages. So you have really a horrible law of series of unintended consequences here. So policy responses need to be learned from COVID by governments in how they protect their national food security, but also how that impacts upon the global scene. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Win. Professor Sylvie.
Yes, I think that from my point of view, taking into account nutrition and health, there is still a gap in data provided by each country, and particularly for the poorest people. So we still need to have a good production of this data to know if the situation are improving or not. But we have to train the overall society on nutritional issue and health issue, because the stakeholders are not always taking into account the fact that nutrition is really important for health and for development. And public policy have to work in line with the SDG, and it's not possible to find solution only for nutritional and health side. It's really important to link the strategy with fight against poverty, because if people have more income, they will have more access to healthy food and healthy lifestyle. So it's really important to take into account poverty, hunger, and health at the same time.
Thank you. Thanks, Sylvie, for that giving highlight on that part. Actually, that is very much utmost important. Yes, Dr. Nagnuch.
Okay, thank you. From my side, that my experience, I work with the government sector and I try to provide them the science-based information. But in Thailand, we have a lot of problem about the data. We lack of data, and we have data, but the data is like reliability is very important for us to, if you want the government sector to draw very good policy, they need this thing very much. And also for the private sector, I think especially for the big company, I think in my country, they're ready to implement or to conform the sustainability, but the government should try to encourage the consumer to have the behavior that go to the sustainable consumption as well, not focus only the production, because now I think every production sector we change a lot, but we like everyone, or we need to prepare ourselves as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like mentioned all the experts, I do agree with that. Starting from the lack of information, actually the data, without that it is difficult to develop the indicators itself. So we cannot reach to that point. Then to bring the aware, we know that we need to know that what is happening first. So that is not in that part, and there is a big gap, and that causes whatever we science do, it will be far away from their implementation of the policy unless we don't have proper data. So to reaching this sustainable development goal and reaching the sustainable lifestyles, improving the health through the agriculture and food, through farm to fork, we need to adopt a certain level of awareness. The data has to be developed, generated from there each country. And then within the country, there is a misinformations, informations are not properly, like Dr. Nangnuch mentioned that reliability is another part, whether we have the data is also reliability or not. The current scenario, what is happening, sometimes we use the data of 15 years back, which is not reliable. Are we going in that way, or we need to have? So generation of the ideas is only come from only we have the data, what is available, and we can bring from there to then. And then on that basis, policy can be developed, which can be implemented in forced order, those enabling policies. And there I see that Dr. Min also mentioned there is a different, all the sectors from the public-private partnerships, all those can help together throughout the production side up to the consumer level can bring, and that's only the possible to achieve that one. I think with that, I would like to conclude from my side for this session of the panel discussions and on this the today's talk. And I would like to hand over now to our, and again, thank you very much all the speakers this afternoon, all the audiences on the Zoom and in this room, as well as again would like to thank the Switch Asia, UNEP, and obviously AIT as well, and then for all the supports getting from all the people. And above all, I would like to thank you all the speakers this afternoon, as well as all the audiences sparing a time and being with us through the digital. And thank you very much for your interest and being, and be sure we will be in the continuous in touch. Now this is the platform we bring there. We know that somewhere you are interested, you working there, feel free to communicate with us, touch with us in different media through that different ways. We will be happy to collaborate from AIT sites or from Switch Asia. We have the now networks from Europe as well, and other platforms here as well, the Thai government as well, and we can network different network. That is the purpose of this type of meeting happen, and we'll be doing future as well. With this, I would like to hand over now again to Ms. Tuni to conclude the sessions.
Okay, I would not be able to thank more, but I really appreciate your contributions as a speakers and also as the participants. This is a very interesting session and dialogue that we have. Food is a huge area contributing to our well-being in all aspects, and this dialogue reminds us about the global challenge that need local action on food security. And we also learn from this dialogue that the emerging issue of food is not only on the production side, but also on food waste and loss. How do we deal with that energy and resources that we produce, that we provided for food, then food does not come on the plate. We also evidence some situation of malnutrition and learn about the tools to promote sustainable food and how consumer behavior can be improved and through healthy lifestyle. And we learned one solution from Thailand, that BCG model can actually help us as a solution to the low production cost and improve productivity. And we learned from Kun Win that rice can be a good example if you want to tackle this food sector. And the benefits of the food, of the rice growing is not only for the food sector, but is also contributing to climate change. And with all this, I would like to wish all of us a very good weekend ahead. And thanks to all of your contribution. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.